Morning. Welcome to Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Check-in, Thursday, April 1st, 2021, 10:17 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards is present, our County Manager Mira Chavez, and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and we will be joined by Commissioner Mejia just a little later on. The work session today is from runs till 11:30 if necessary. The public can attend through our YouTube channel, through a live stream, or with a conference call option 360-252-9020. The PIN is 1234. And we usually start with any reports from external boards and commissions. So Ramiro, unless you had a contrary topic, we start there.
No, I don't have any specific topics this morning for you commissioners.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards, did you have a board or a commission report?
Yes, I guess, okay, Economic Development Council, and the focus is how to get money out again, you know, that's.
I hear you as well. Do you have your mic on?
Okay, let's try this.
Yep, thank you.
How about now? Can you hear me better, sir?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. The Economic Development Council board meeting, and the focus is really how we're going to help the community with the COVID funds that we're getting. So kind of the planning stage of implementing that. And then the Lewis Thurston Mason Area Agency on Aging, again, COVID was the main portion of the discussion on that as well. I mean, you know, we're doing our normal budget things and some of the mundane things but if I really have to point to an issue of concern, it's going to be COVID yet. So that seems to be kind of taking all the bandwidth, if you will. And then the Washington County's risk pool. One of the issues there, I'm going to guess the main issue, is when we do the self-insuring, then those policies are resold to larger insurance companies. And we have now been lumped in with California, Oregon, and now Washington as far as the risk involved with how we're doing business, and I'm going to say the enhanced concern of these insurance companies. And consequently, our rates are going to go up substantially because of that, on whether it has to do with wildfires and maybe buildings. The insurance companies, I don't think they think we're handling things quite right in those 3 states. And consequently, there's more risk because of it. So that those would be my committee activities, I guess. Fire commissioners, nothing big there. Again, people wondering about helping getting shots and the virus activity. So that's about it for that.
Okay, go ahead, Ramiro.
I just have a question to Commissioner Edwards on the area agency. You said that discussed COVID. Was that conversation including vaccination?
I didn't hear that, sir.
I'm sorry. Is the conversation and the area agency meeting that you had, you said the conversation was related to COVID? Uh-huh. Was vaccination part of that discussion?
Yes, and actually the discussion was how well the board of our health department did, and some of the I even asked if there were concerns that we had not met for the seniors, that we could do a better job. And yes, we can always do better, but all in all, it was very well received. And one thing that's yet pending is how we're going to be able to get homebound seniors the vaccination. So more info to come, but that's what I mean. It was all basically the topic of the day was, other than budget things and those normal things, it was some of the pass-through money that we were going to get. Yes, how are we going to do that? But how can we reach our seniors and give them the best service possible?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll report on a few things. I had 2 full days of Salmon Recovery Council because we had our normal meeting on Thursday and then they blocked off the Friday for a retreat. And the retreat was related to the allocation formula of how the different watersheds get the Puget Sound, it's called PSAR, acquisition and restoration, basically money for large habitat restoration projects. There's quite a complex formula that's been adopted, and there's, because there's not enough money to really get us where the results that we want, everybody's been wringing their hands about, well, is there a way to deploy the resources more effectively with the inadequate amount of money that we have? And so there was breakout groups and brainstorming about that, and we're kind of in a vulnerable spot in South Sound. We get the lowest amount of allocation of under the formula, we get the lowest amount of any group in Puget Sound. So we were very nervous about anything that might further affect our funding stream, but where the group, and there were proposals that would have done that. So we had multiple stakeholder meetings before the retreat, just about how to approach the conversation in a way that made it clear that we're not able to meet our needs with and it would be damaging to us and the region as overall. The formula, and part of this relates to the science, which has evolved and shown there's more known about the importance of nearshore habitats, which is what South Sound is abundant with, to the life expectancy and survival rates of salmon. So we think we're more important than we were thought to be when the allocation formula was crafted, and we certainly didn't want that sort of importance to go backwards. So I think we landed in a good place, and there's some good ideas, and we've got some ideas for trying to capture more funding through different sources, including private sources. So there's a lot of good conversation there. Second thing I'll report on is I attended as Ramiro had sort of proposed, and we had board agreed. He and I were going to attend together, but it turned out he was not available. So I attended this racial justice forum that was put on by the signatories of the letter that we received on behalf of the county. They evolved their approach. Since the first letter, they were going to have 2 separate forums. I thought it was to accommodate people's schedules, but it turns out that they've broken it up by topic. So they are inviting people to attend both of them because they're on separate topics. I am not available for the second one, but I appeared for the first one, which was more of the criminal justice stuff, which was more kind of stuff I know more about anyway. The next session is going to be on public health, food security, and housing. This one was more on criminal justice. I can't remember the topics, but the things that relate to that. There was pretty good turnout. We had an Olympia City Council member, two and 4 from Tumwater, and myself. And it was more like a candidate debate forum. It really wasn't a back and forth. I was hoping it was more of a discussion where they could ask and we could sort of give our position, and then they could sort of say what didn't seem right about that. And then I could sort of, there'd be sort of a dialogue. It wasn't like that at all. It was really a candidate forum style where they ask a question, each elected official gets 2 minutes to respond, and they move to the next question, period. And the questions were not really about the points of their letter. They were different questions that members had submitted, just like you do in a candidate forum, frankly. So the questions, so two of the questions, some of the questions were really vague and hard to answer, like how do you understand racism to touch the whole community and how are you going to solve it? I mean, that's a little bit of a simplification, but there were some really very difficult questions to give a 2-minute answer to. Frankly, they were so comprehensive in scope. There was a few questions that were really on point about resources and behavioral health and things that connect to like our LEAD program and stuff. So those were good. And then there were a couple questions that I wanted to share with the board because the very first question was about something that had appeared in the newspaper. So I kind of knew what they were talking about, but I'd never dived into it. It was something about law enforcement. And this is the sheriff. I don't know if it's the sheriff or Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, or all of them, but there was something in the paper about the I-940 training data and how the law enforcement agencies had not submitted what the state was looking for. And I'm not sure what the nuances of the issue were, but there were questions for me, for the panel, about why was that happening and what were we going to do about it. So I didn't really know the ins and outs of it. I just said I would pick it up with Sheriff Snaza, and I'm sure that we all want to be in compliance with I-940. So that was number one. I thought you should be aware of that one because you may get questions about it. Number two was about our declaration of racism as a public health crisis. That was one of the points on their letter. They wanted the county to do that, and we did that. We were independently working on doing that. But then the question was, why had we not consulted with this or that community group in advance of doing that? And so we all had to answer that question. So those are the two that were kind of specific and sounded kind of critical in a sense. And I just wanted to share that with the board in case you get questions about that. The group, the BLAST group was referenced specifically, and they put on a community forum last summer that I participated in, and then their leader gave a presentation to the Law and Justice Council. So I felt that there had been engagement, but it might be something we want to circle back to before we, fully finalize our racial equity plan that the county manager is working on. So that's something we can talk about. Last thing I wanted to report on is is sort of a prospective issue. The mayor's forum is coming up on Friday, and one of the topics for that meeting, and I welcome any input if you have any preliminary input, but one of the topics for the mayor's forum is going to be looking at our deployment of, each jurisdiction is getting American Rescue Plan resources, and is there a way to work together in some capacity to have a bigger impact on housing units? Obviously our outline has the $5 million tentatively allocated for maybe a motel purchase. Of course, we haven't made any final decisions. So my ears will be open to that conversation and to hear what other jurisdictions have in mind and what the magnitude of the coordinated resources might look like, and then I'll bring that back for the board to discuss and see if we can work that into our plan or not. But just wanted to give you a heads up that that's going to be up for discussion on Friday with the mayors. That's my report. I see Commissioner Mejia is here, so I'll turn it to her. We're on topic number 1, Commissioner, the reports on external boards and commissions.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. I got distracted at the farmer's market. I got to meet several of the farmers today, and I got to ring the bell and they've had the same bell since 1984. So it was a very big honor. They're starting today with expanding days and hours. So they're open today, and it was just exciting to see all the farmers and artisans and just it was nice.
Could you tell if there were going to be any music there today?
To get out. It's a beautiful day, but I have to I've been doing several meetings, just attending my committees. I met with the Squaxin Island tribe
Commissioner
last
Mejia,
week.
did you hear Commissioner Mentzer's question on the farmer's market? I think you cut off for a second.
No, I did not hear him.
Oh, I just asked if you could tell if they were setting up for any music performance today at the farmer's market.
No, I couldn't tell. I don't think so, which is kind of sad. I hope to see you there soon, Commissioner Menzer. I'll go cheer you on. I'll go cheer you on when that happens. And other, I guess, I met with the Squaxin Island Tribe Council last week, and that was a really good conversation. And they have invited me to their museum, which I'm very excited about. And I hope to really keep working with them and continue building on the partnership that already exists. I also had a meeting with Representative or Congresswoman Strickland, and I was very excited to meet with her and just talk to her about county infrastructure and what that's going to look like in the future and how could we get support for that from the federal government. And it's good to see someone that knows local government up there. She's very knowledgeable about local government and very supportive. So it was just really good to speak with her. And then in terms of intercity transit, they had a showing last week of a hydrogen cell bus that was making a tour, and I was unable to go, unfortunately, due to another scheduled meeting, but I did speak with Anne, who's the executive director right now for Intercity Transit, and it was good to get her perspective on it. There's going to be, they're making progress on their building right now, and Representative Strickland will be stopping by, I believe, sometime in the next coming weeks. And they're gonna go show her around the area, and so I'm very excited to be able to join them.
Commissioner, can I ask on your meeting with the Squaxin Island Tribal Council, by any chance did the issue come up that we were dealing with about the watershed plan, the Deschutes watershed plan?
Yes. So they didn't go into specifics of it, but they mentioned it. They were thankful on kind of the language that we had adopted with what their suggestion was, but they didn't really go into the full detail of the watershed plan.
Yeah, Commissioner, related to that, that's an item on the upcoming agenda next Tuesday during agenda setting. I do have an update on the language that Commissioner Mejia is stating. All in all, good news. The Department of Ecology has accepted the language. The Squaxin Island Tribe appreciates the board including the additional language. So at this point, I will ask the board just to give you a heads up for you to consider approving the plan itself from the county's point of view. As you know, it requires approval from all the many different stakeholders. So I will give you a heads up. I'm giving you a heads up. This coming up on your agenda setting.
Great, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, Commissioner Mejia, was that are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to item 2, which is just open forum essentially for commissioner items. I'll go circle back to Commissioner Edwards.
I guess we'll just kind of share this around, and so no one commissioner uses up all the time. I suppose we better do it that way. How about the lakes issues? I wonder, when do we have something scheduled on the lakes issues,
Yeah.
both Long Lake and Lawrence Lake mainly, but the improvement districts that may, the water quality and the improvement districts that may want to take place on many of the lakes that have chosen not to do an improvement district because, you know, they don't feel that the county is that helpful. So we've got something coming up at some briefing or something in the very near future.
Yeah, and in fact, I believe today I'm having a meeting with Robin, Jennifer Walker, myself, and the briefing is two elements of this. The briefing, I believe, the board required for me to organize is to make sure that first meeting is related to the indirect costs. And I believe the board wanted to give the Lake Management District members, some of them, the forum as to how they can express their perspective on the indirect costs. And that is going to be narrowly focused on the indirect cost conversation. And then if there is another briefing related to, for you to exercise your legislative authority, whether you want to do more, that's really up to you how you want to move forward during the budget process.
I guess in following up on that comment, my preference on doing that is I do want to do more for the lakes for the benefit of all the citizens of Thurston County, not just those two lakes. I think we need to look at a water quality plan, and the lake management folks did submit some pretty good information about the toxic algae and that type of activity that we're yet to deal with. And we're coming up on summer, and we're going to have problems, I know, somewhere along the line, and I want to make sure that we are on top of addressing it and trying to work with those lake management districts and encourage other lake management districts to be formed so that we do not look like we're an adversarial operation to the management of those districts. So that's my preference as we move forward, just so I let everybody know where I'm at on it. I think water quality has got to be the big issue.
I think your question was, when are we going to be addressing that? I didn't hear the answer. Is there a date?
I don't have that, my calendar in front of me, but it's coming up, hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks. And again, today I'm going to have a conversation with Robin, Jennifer Walker, and myself, just to make sure that we all are on the same page. But again, the first briefing, I believe the direction from the board, as I understood, is to give the Lake Management District representatives the opportunity to present that information that perhaps already presented to you, Commissioner Mesa and Commissioner Mejia, in terms of the indirect cost. And at that point, I will ask Robin to walk us through what is the legal requirements as to how we apply indirect costs. And really, at that point, it will be not necessarily at that briefing, but a decision down the road as to how much the board would like to probably subsidize. And I think that's probably what Commissioner Edwards is leaning to, on how much subsidy and where that money will come from and how much and all that. But that, I believe, has to be part of your budget discussion. I don't think you can probably make a decision related to a budget subsidy in the next month. I think you need to be looking holistically where the money will come from, the level of additional subsidies that you may want to implement, and how that will affect other areas of the county as well. So that's how I understand the whole conversation is.
Okay, good. I guess then it's my turn. I will raise, I don't think that the board ever discussed the letter that was received from the Nisqually River Council, where they, I think this was an outflow from what I presented a few weeks ago about the new research about the tire chemical that stops oxidation in tires, having a very damaging effect on coho salmon. And so the Nisqually River Council on February 26th sent us a letter that said, since you guys are working on recycled asphalt, is there a way that the county could look at, test the areas that you do have recycled asphalt? This has nothing really to do with the new area that we authorized, but apparently there's 5 or 6 areas that we already allow, we already have recycled asphalt, and could we do some testing to sort of figure out how that activity relates to this research on salmon? And I don't know what that would cost or who would do that, or if the county has that capacity, but it seemed like the board should address this letter. I'd personally like to hear what our staff would say about this request and how onerous it would be or expensive it would be to do this, because there's a lot that isn't known. That's kind of what held up the whole recycled asphalt issue in Nisqually Valley for so long. And as I understood it, the company and the Nisqually tribe worked out and the Nisqually River Council worked out an agreement where they would have aggressive monitoring and adaptive management. So if the county could somehow assist and add to the science of how to do recycled asphalt most safely, that could help us in Nisqually Valley, could help coho salmon survival all around Puget Sound. So I just thought that we should at least consider that.
Chair, could I comment on that?
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you that when you were giving your salmon report over the last couple of days that you spent. Did that topic come up as a problem or potential problem? And has there been more research or something? I know it's alleged that it's detrimental. Sounds like that's the deal, but have we got more information on that? And if we do have more information that's coming, because it is a statewide and national, I don't know, international issue, it'll sound like to me, I would like to propose, if we can show that there's some justification for doing it, writing a letter to Ecology and asking them to get on board early on some of the testing issues, because they obviously are in a better position to do some of that, whether it's through their own labs or their own financial ability to do some, I think, pretty extensive testing, because that stockpiling is going on in a lot of counties around the state. But more than that, the runoff from all the roads that is working its way into the Puget Sound, which is our concern right now, has to be pretty substantial when you think of all the cars and tires wearing out. So I'd like to see what more, other than that initial article, and I don't know if you and I read the same article or not, but I have read an article about this as an issue. And I'd like to have more information about, is there some studying going on, verifying all that, and raising that to a heightened concern with the environmental community. And if so, let's us get something moving. And I would think the first step, not only maybe watching what we're doing here locally, but write a letter to Ecology with all of our signatures, asking them to look into this and see what's, because it's a bigger issue than just Thurston County. So that's kind of my question,
Well,
I guess.
Yeah, the NRC letter went to the Department of Ecology, Washington State, University of Washington, Olympia, Lacey, Thurston County, and Pierce County Council. And that's just, I guess, based on where they're situated. The article that's referenced in the letter is in Science from last year, but we had a presentation at Salmon Recovery Council from the actual scientists. They're Canadian, I believe, that did the research, and it was a multi-year process. So I would be very surprised if there's new data in the last couple of months. This was just breaking news as of a couple of months ago, and it was years of research that boiled into narrowing down. They just went step by step, like what is going on here, and they were able to narrow and narrow and narrow and really identify. I mean, it's really rare that everybody was really excited about it because there's so many situations where there's so many different things, you know, contributing to one problem. And it's very rare that you kind of winnow down and sort of get what you want, which is, wow, we think we've identified, you know, exactly this chemical that's having this extremely bizarre effect on this one particular kind of fish, not all the fish, just the coho for some reason. So it's very exciting because you were able to pinpoint, and that makes it a lot more effective to you know, to try to figure out. And I think there's already, I believe there's already action in the legislature about dealing with it. I'm not sure exactly how they're trying to deal with it, but yeah, I don't have any problem of seeing where ecology's at, but I guess my question, I mean, I don't know how many, I mean, I don't know to what extent Thurston County is unique or not unique. I assume recycled asphalt is done all over the state of Washington. And I'm not aware that Thurston County is especially unique in having a lot of recycled asphalt. But I don't really know the industry and where it's concentrated and where the sources are. And if we're in any kind of unique position to do testing that would add to the science or not. If ecology doesn't do anything, which, let's be honest, you know, is a likely outcome based on other contexts that we've asked them to do things. I just wonder whether there's any. My question is, what does our staff think we could do, and what would be the cost or burden of taking the actions that are suggested? I just want to know that so I can weigh that against what ecology might do or not do.
How about as an extension of that conversation that we refer to that information that you received at the Salmon Recovery folks, because you got it right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And if we could refer to an article, but I think that we should write a letter from the County Commission to the Department of Ecology and to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, because it's directly affecting endangered species, and at least be on the record, so to speak, that we're asking, what's going on here, you know? Because if you don't talk about it, nothing's going to happen, probably. But I think there's other groups that would sign on with that concern, but at least we can show or develop our ability to show that we're taking a leadership role and at least digging into it and finding out. I mean, like I say, it's going on all around the state, in every state in the union, and probably in every country that does asphalt. So it's just it's a common wear product, I guess, off of tires. And I don't know that there's any point in writing any worldwide letters now, but I think to our local folks, I think we ought to be writing a letter referring to the information that you're aware of, so that those folks can become aware if they're not. Otherwise, they might just put their head in the sand and, oh, we didn't know that. You know, well, they can't say that if we write them a letter. Right.
Commissioner, County Manager.
Yeah, related to this, the letter from the Nisqually River Council, I do recall reading that letter. Maybe I can, I think it's 2 steps. What as I understand the board like to take is having a conversation with staff, so I can probably contact environmental health and ask them to review that letter to see if there is any opportunities for us to provide some testing. And then I'll come back to the board to see what options do we have. You know, and it becomes a little more interesting conversation as to how we conduct testing in private property. And so I need to get through the details as to how we can probably achieve that testing, if that is the case that or that is the opportunity that we have. But related to the letter to ecology, I think there may be a next step, depending on the results of a testing, or depending on the challenges that we have related to actual providing testing. That would be my suggestion to the board, if that is agreeable.
Okay, could I follow up on that, sir?
Yep.
I guess I don't want to wait for the bureaucratic process to take effect. We might not get moving on this thing for 3-4 months yet. you know, because everybody's busy about everything. If you're the chair, you're on the Salmon Recovery Committee, if you believe that scientist is valid, and you heard the presentation, you heard it right from him, I don't think we ought to wait. I don't see that it would hurt anything. I think we could do all the things the county manager just brought up, but I don't think we ought to wait for a response from them. If you feel that you're satisfied that that information was true and correct and that we better do something, at least let's put people on notice that, hey, we got to start thinking about this. And so that way nobody can say, oh, I didn't know about that. Gee, that's something, and we better look at that. We'll study it, and then 2 years from now we'll get some kind of a response. I think if we put them on notice right away, including the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that here's an article, here's a presentation by this scientist, whatever it is, that we're going to refer to. This has been a study that was conducted over a 3-4 year period, whatever it was. How they narrowed it down to the coho species specifically, I have no idea, but those scientific people in those different agencies have got to have some kind of understanding of what's going on. And Chair, if you're convinced, and just the article that I read, I'm concerned, but if you're convinced that it's ready to go, I would rather not wait. I would at least like to do what the commissioner or what the county manager said, but I'd also like to send letters to those that, you know, are going to have a potential of responding to this. And it might be more than ecology and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I know the Washington Game Department, or, you know, I mean, the whole gamut. Whoever is in the food chain above us, I think we ought to be putting them on alert that, hey, pay attention here.
Okay. Commissioner Mejia, anything?
No, you know, if I agree with Commissioner Edwards, if, you know, however you want to proceed with it, since you were the one who heard the presentation and you know more of the details than I do, for sure.
I can outline, I mean, I know county manager's got 20 bazillion things. I don't mind to put together a letter of that, in that vein, and give it to the county manager to take a look at.
Yeah, I'll draft the letter. I think it's probably going to mirror pretty much the language of the Nisqually River Council. And what we may include in that letter, attaching to your letter, is that specific letter to emphasize the need for the Department of Ecology to do something. That's what I think I understand the letter is.
Well, we can just say we received this letter. We know you received it.
Right.
We want to emphasize that we share the concerns here. We may or may not be able to, you know, there's a hole in the literature. That's what it really boils down to. There's in the whole scientific review of our Nisqually Valley proposal, the study that was commissioned showed that there were a lot of holes in the research. They just didn't, and these things had not been studied. So we think there's a good opportunity to advance this. You know, we want to recycle asphalt, right? I mean, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we understand all the connections. Here's something that nobody would have ever thought about. Some tire, you know, byproduct having a weirdly targeted effect on a certain species of fish. Those are the kind of things that are that need to be, those dots need to be connected.
Yeah, that's what my understanding is. The letter is just to emphasize the letter all of us received, and heighten the importance. The Board of County Commissioners see this as a priority issue.
And you can say we're exploring ways we're exploring ways that we might be able to assist, but we also think that there's a larger, you know, that this falls within the concern of the state's Department of Ecology as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to go to Commissioner Mejia.
Okay, like realizing it's a bigger issue. I think that's what we need to focus on. And I don't want to limit it to ecology. If we think of somebody else besides the state Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, I think we need to put the message out there. There's a problem here, and we think something ought to be done about it. Take the lead.
Sounds good. Commissioner Mejia.
Yes, I do have something. And when I was back in January, Rainier, the city of Rainier sent us a letter in regards to the Chehalis Trail being renamed. And I never saw that come back up or anything in regards to that. So I was wondering, and they had also sent a letter in regards to some projects that they had in regards to a pickleball and tennis ball court that they were doing, as well as some facilities that they were trying to update, and they were working with Public Works. And I just wanted to follow up on those, see what's happening,
Yeah,
just because I never saw it pop
I
up.
thought we agreed to the pickleball.
I have an answer for that, for the 2 items, if I may.
Okay.
On the status. The city of Rainier was received last year. The board did discuss the request from the city of Rainier to rename the trails. And at that point, the board wanted to have a conversation as a whole. How are we going to be renaming the whole trail system as a whole, not just on a specific portion of the trail itself? And I believe I responded to the city of Rainier in those terms. So it just happens that in your upcoming planning session, which is scheduled for April 16, that's one of your agenda items. It's just for you to have a conversation holistically as to how you may consider renaming all the trails. Is the points of beginning and end make sense, or you like to rename something different? And at that point is when you may have the conversation with the Rainier request. But again, that letter was received last year, and the board did discuss that, and at that point decided the board to have a larger conversation related to how the naming of the trail should be discussed, which is coming up on your April 16th planning session. Related to the pickleball, and that also was a request last year from the city of Rainier, and the board included, I believe, $250,000 to help the city of Rainier, as long as the city of Rainier will maintain those facilities. I just finalized the interlocal agreement, the draft. Our attorney has provided some feedback. And as soon as I get additional feedback from Public Works, I will send that the interlocal agreement to Mayor Shaw for the review, and then I will bring back this to you for a formal approval during an AIS. I have kept Mayor Shaw appraised of the progress, and in fact, I just sent them an email 2 weeks ago as to where we were on the ILA. And unless I'm missing something else, that's the status of the 2 items.
Thank you, Ramiro. I didn't know where we were at. And so I know that was something that came on first couple of weeks when I was here. That's all I have.
A trail naming material sat on the top of my desk for months and months and months, and I think I finally filed it somewhere because but I know that Ramiro we're eventually going to follow up with that.
So it's coming up, finally.
Circle back to Commissioner Edwards for another commissioner item.
Yes, I have a question about correspondence that we received, and it has to do with REIT 1. I am interested, is that correct information that we received? There's a MRSC attachment that we utilize once in a while, and it says that only unincorporated citizens would be taxed to do that courthouse deal in downtown Olympia. Is that a true statement?
What downtown Olympia courthouse deal?
Well, not downtown, Pacific Avenue, I guess it is.
Oh, okay.
I guess it was REIT funding that was proposed to deal with that lease issue. So I'm just wondering if Is there merit there? What's going on?
I was ready to address that next week during your space needs decision-making process. So it's two elements related to that email. One was related whether REIT is an allowable funding source to spend money on a not county-owned facility. And I'm prepared to address that, or we can probably address that today. The other item that it was highlighted in the email is whether this building, the 3000 Pacific Avenue, is included in the capital facilities plan in order to utilize the REIT 1 money. It is not, because obviously this is new. But if the board provides a direction on the space planning, that will be one of the next steps that we need to take in the upcoming, if the board decides to move forward with the plan, we'll bring a budget amendment, as part of the budget amendment, to add this line item on the capital facilities plan. I believe those are the two items that we receive on this. The third item that you highlighted, commissioners, we receive real estate excise tax on the unincorporated areas of the county. We do not receive REIT funding from within the cities. And I don't know how to respond to that comment, really, whether the unincorporated areas of the cities of the county will fund this project. To me, that was more a rhetorical question than anything else, so I don't know how to respond to that. But those are the three elements I'm tracking on the public response. But I'll be more than happy to get into more detail, but I was hoping to consolidate all that information when I will ask you to make a decision on the space planning next Tuesday.
Okay, Chair, could I continue that discussion?
Sure. I had one though quick question on the capital facilities plan piece of it. Is there a required public hearing to amend the capital facilities plan? Yeah, Robin's nodding. I thought so. I was just confirming that was something raised in the email. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I guess if that is true, that we would be making an expenditure for a courthouse, basically, or courthouse activity, administrative, housing, whatever you're going to call it. If we did that, if it was something that went out to a vote of the public, then everybody would be taxed equally to deal with the cost of a courthouse. And that's kind of a fair way to do business in my estimation, because the courthouse does business for everybody in Thurston County, not just the rural citizens in the county. So I'd like to have a little more dialogue about that particular concept.
I saw Ramiro first, then Robin.
So that particular concept was exactly when the board was considering to send to the voters a ballot measure to build a new courthouse. That's exactly the concept, but I believe Commissioner Edwards was opposed to that concept because he voted against it. So that's exactly the concept that it was the purview to build a new courthouse, to ask the voters to raise the levy to fund a new courthouse, in which all the voters will have the opportunity to say yes or no. But I believe the commissioner was voted against that last time. And this is what it was instructed to us as a staff, is to come up with a plan B, absent that option. And the plan that we provided to you is that direction of the board of the plan B. And also ask us to bring a financial element within our means. And that's what we're providing to you.
So so REIT 1 is collected and it's limited to capital facilities. And the capital facilities that the board operates are generally not located in the unincorporated county. So I mean, to me, it's part and parcel of what we would use REIT 1 for in any normal course of business is to do upgrades on our facilities wherever they're located. In this case, we have to provide for county government, and by statute, that has to be located within the city of Olympia. So I don't see that part of the correspondence. I didn't think had any. I didn't see the issue there. I did want to know about the use of the money on non-owned, improvements on non-owned buildings. That was a question that I wanted to hear more about. Sounds like we will.
Yeah, and I just received yesterday, I need to read it, I believe a legal opinion from the AG's office that specifically addresses that. There is an allowable cost, but I will get into more detail on Tuesday, but I have not read the legal opinion entirely, but there's a legal opinion that those are allowable costs as long as we prove there is a county purpose. And obviously this is a county purpose.
But flipping back to the use of REIT 1, I mean, if you take that argument to its logical extension, there wouldn't be much we could use it on. I mean, it'd be very limited. I mean, obviously we have things in the unincorporated county, but that would be exempting the incorporated areas of Tenino and Rainier, and I don't know what Tilley Road, I guess, is in the unincorporated county, but right? Tilley campus.
Yeah, I think that is with the Tumwater UGA, I believe. Maybe just outside of the Tumwater UGA.
Anyway, that was just my 2 cents on that. But yeah, there were questions in there that needed to be answered. It sounds like we're on track for that. Anything on this, Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir, you kind of asked kind of my line of questions, so I don't have further questions at this time.
I do have a follow-up, sir.
Go ahead.
The county manager is correct. I was very opposed to building a new courthouse in downtown Olympia, and consequently, I would have been opposed to that vote to fund that $300 million operation. I am not opposed to fairly assessing a cost to all the citizens in Thurston County to do the right thing. I just didn't think that was the right thing. Obviously, my personal preference is that we remain here on the Hill and develop this campus that I feel is the best campus in the state of Washington. Heck, we even have a view of the state capitol from here. But anyway, nonetheless, the process will move forward, I guess, with a majority of the board making a decision. In my estimation, I don't want to just build, or I don't want to develop a downtown campus, if you will, or it's not downtown, it's on Pacific Avenue by IT is the best way to explain it, so everybody'd know where it is. I don't want to develop an off-site campus at in Olympia, down closer to downtown, utilizing only money raised in the unincorporated area. If we went out for a vote, and I brought this up several days ago, that a vote shares the cost with everyone in the county. And so if we went out for a vote and the voters said, yeah, we want to spend X for a project, now I know that doesn't fit very well with the owner of that building's time frame, but that comes back to we're driving a Chevrolet right now, needs a tune-up, and we're looking at getting a Buick. But I realize that, but I just don't think it's fair to use strictly county money and do it through councilmatic activity of bonds and build in downtown, basically.
Okay, A, we're not building downtown.
I know we're not building downtown. But.
Number two, it's your belief that the voters want to pay a higher amount of taxes so that we can accommodate our space needs. That must be what you think.
Oh yes, I do believe that. I do believe they would do it if it was the right presentation to them and they saw the need, yes.
And when it came, so I disagree with you. And the third thing is, it's not about the location, because just to set the record straight, I asked you if I were to change my vote and locate the courthouse proposal on this campus, would you support it? And you backed away and said, nope, I want to just build a court building, or I want to do a public-private partnership. You would not support the proposal at the finish line. You would not support the proposal, even if Commissioner Hutchings and I were to change our votes and agree to your preferred location. So let's just make that clear. So it's not about the location. You did not want to support the proposal of a new courthouse to meet the space need, long-term space needs. And so I don't believe that the voters want a tax increase for this purpose. And so I think that we have the obligation to use the tax resources, the revenue resources that we have to meet our statutory obligation to provide for county government. And so using this defense mechanism of, well, that piece of the taxes is only collected from this unincorporated county, that is just simply, that's a chess move, as you like to say, that you're want to engage in. That is not a good argument for the reasons that I think I've laid out, that you cannot, that money is earmarked toward capital facilities. 90% of what the obligation that the county has for capital facilities falls outside the unincorporated area by statute, because our government has to operate within the city of Olympia as the county seat. That is state law. So to try to draw this connection as a way to break this proposal apart is disingenuous, in my opinion. You need a better argument than that. There are other arguments, but that's not a good one.
Can I continue then, sir?
Sure.
Okay. I guess I want to take exception to the fact that I was opposed to the whole concept. I was opposed to a Taj Mahal. I am in favor of a remodel, and that remodel would include building a court building on our existing property. And that's been my proposal all along. We need a nice courthouse for court and law and justice activities right here. I've talked about that all along, and I believe over where HR is located and the credit union, that's why I'm opposed to paving, putting $100,000 into pavement at the credit union, is because I think we have some other options that we could move forward with, and one of them is a scaled down approach and put it on the ballot and explain to the public what we're going to do and what they're going to get. That business of downtown, you're right, I was adamantly opposed to putting that downtown, adamantly opposed to it.
When I took office in January 2019, I was handed a binder of the final 3 proposals that your board prepared. And I don't know if you voted against it. I don't know what the votes were, but
yes, I did.
And building a courthouse building on this campus was not in that binder. That was not an option that your board presented for my consideration in early 2019. I was given a choice of Harrison Avenue, which was an illegal location, Plum and Union, and then a project that would have taken 2.5 times longer to rebuild on the current Hilltop location for a new courthouse. So I don't know what went into all of the discussion that you and the former commissioners were part of that led to the final set of proposals that I was handed on January 1st, 2019, but it wasn't anything like what you're describing here today. So that just wasn't an option that I had. And I thought that the board was unanimous and united in preparing all of that. It's because a lot of studies went into it, a lot of site selection. I know there were a couple dozen or a dozen. There were 16 community outreach sessions, of which I attended 2 to hear staff present on all the different site proposals and then winnowing it down. You guys went through a lot of process, and I respected that process when I came into office. And I chose the best of what the final winnowed down options that were presented to me. And you were part of all of that. And I didn't hear you say at that time that you were adamantly opposed to any of it. I know you voted against the Plum and Union location, but but leading up to that, I did not hear that proposal.
Well, I guess I want to continue this discussion, sir, is early on, I went to the legislature and asked for authority to extend the years so that the community could vote on this and we could do something. But the something that came out of that working process was nothing like I had originally envisioned, which was going to be, my vision is utilizing property that prior county commissioners had already purchased over the last 40 years adjacent to our existing campus. And so I've always been an advocate to do something, but do it right here, and it would be scaled down. It would not be a Taj Mahal. Now, granted, I want to do a partnership with a private entity. I asked bond counsel the other day during a budget hearing if that was okay, if you could do that. He said, yes, it is okay. I'd like to hear more about the possibility of building an 8 or 10 story building over by HR, for an example, is what I would envision. Now, this is going to take a lot of work, and it doesn't allow us to move. Well, pardon?
This should have been worked on 5 years ago when you took office and put a completely different plan.
Well, okay, here, but I guess I can only say that Commissioner Hutchings supported the downtown courthouse. He got 14% of the vote in the end, I think, which is not a very good showing. And I think that was the issue that cost him that low vote turnout. I think I was very much in touch with the community the whole couple of years we've been working on this, and I do think they agree there are possibilities here on the Hill. When we had Rasmussen go out and do a survey, he said the downtown was a killer right from the get-go. He said it'll never go down there. It'll never pass. He told us that up front. I continue to think that we need to do something here on the county's campus. Again, the nicest campus around. But we're not going to make that decision now. I can see that. We're probably at odds, and I see Commissioner Mejia wanted to make a comment on something, but I do have a follow-up for the county manager. I would like to be able to review that Attorney General ruling that he said that he's in possession of, I guess, so that we're not getting that just before we we meet on Tuesday. We get it at the same time we discuss it. We don't have time to review it. So if there's something like that out there that's going to talk about the feasibility, viability, legality of doing something, I want to know about that early on so I have time to digest that and see what might be a next step. Because I don't like this business of getting stuff at the same day we're going to be making a decision. So that's kind of my position on that.
I'll give you a copy of that today, Commissioner.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. So final point there, I just want to kind of reground the discussion in that the proposal before the board is, to me, using the word Cadillac to describe it is inaccurate because we're not building anything. We're not raising anyone's taxes. To me, we're doing it's reinvesting in this complex that you're so fond of. And it's making it a law and justice center with maintenance upgrades and reconfiguring it for the 21st century, so to speak. It's really the absolute minimum of how we can meet our needs. I haven't heard any other plan that would meet the needs. I mean, even the citizen that had proposed something that we've referred to wanted to build a brand new building addition to the family juvenile court or district court, which would be way more expensive than what we're talking about here. So anyway, I just want to make sure it's clear to the public who's listening to this that we're not considering a Cadillac. We're considering kind of a minimal, live within our means, do the minimum thing, hearing the community. As Commissioner Edwards, I agree with him that there wasn't the kind of support we needed for that previous proposal. And that's why we're looking at this option. I had C. Robin and then Commissioner Mejia.
My only comment is, should the board want to know more about public-private partnerships, Nancy Nearest is quite knowledgeable in that area and has offered to come back and do a work session with you if that's what the board should want on that specific topic.
Commissioner Mejia.
I just want to say, you know, I was an employee of the county beforehand, and I heard all of these conversations. I was part of some of the presentations when they came forward and presented them. And what I've seen throughout all these years is we keep kicking the bucket down the line. And this issue, I mean, it's been kicked on, and there has been no solution. And for me, this is a short-term solution, is what this project is. But it's a solution nonetheless that will address the space needs that we currently have, and really give us an option to think towards the future on whether we want to expand where we are at right now, build up, or like Commissioner Edwards said, build and you know, a 8-story building and HR. But we need to do something now. We just can't keep kicking the bucket down the line, and we can't keep putting this off. The needs are there, the security risks are there, and we need to do something.
Chair, could I comment?
Yes, sir.
I agree. We do need to do something. But what we're doing now is not purchasing a Cadillac. I revamped that after I made that misstatement a couple of days ago. I went to a Buick.
Buick.
I changed it from Cadillac to a Buick. But the reality is we are not buying anything. We're going to be leasing a Buick. And for those citizens out there that have had the ability to either lease or own a product, I mean, one of the issues is by the time we get done with a capital project expenditure, and we don't have anything when we're done with that expenditure, is that portion of it legal? I don't even know that. But maybe this Attorney General position that we're talking about, maybe it'll address that, I don't know. But I really do think that I'd like to hear from that bond counsel and see if it's at all feasible. I can tell you that years ago when I was sheriff, I developed a public-private partnership that I was told wasn't feasible. And we did that with a helicopter program. That helicopter program was very beneficial to the citizens of Thurston County at really almost no cost. And I think if we think outside the box, sometimes we can come up with solutions that work well. And I do want a solution, and I want a conclusion to this issue. I'd like to start building a 10-story building tomorrow, but I know that isn't the way it's going to go. So I think talking with bond counsel is something worth doing. Why not explore that option? There are a lot of big-time developers out there that would partner up with us to own 5 of the top 5 floors, for an example, of a 10-story building. And then we would have a plan in which we had it all laid out ahead of time, every 20 years or something. I don't think we ought to build a 40-year building like was done in the 70s at this location. We don't even have thermal pane windows in this building. But I do know that we replaced a lot of the conduit and the wiring when we had a burnout here almost a couple of years ago now, with a very high-grade system to handle almost anything we might do on a remodel. And so there's a lot of things that we could do, but it doesn't fit very well with a spur-of-the-moment run to that new Buick sitting there that we're going to lease. We might have to patch up this Chevrolet for a little more until we kick this around a little bit. I just don't think we're there yet. And so, yes, I'm opting to continue to stay here on the Hill where I've always opted to stay. And I think we should move forward exploring that. And yes, I will be opposed to anything that leaves here because I think it's a poor move, and I'm representing the citizens of Thurston County, not the government entity of Thurston County. So that's where I'm at on this.
Okay, it's 11:26. We're about out of time. Is there anything that needs to be raised before we adjourn?
Well, I mean, I could go into some other issues if you want, but we're really trying to adjourn at 11:30, I think, right? We're about a minute and a half away. So I guess we'll have future discussions coming up. We've got a planning phase coming up, and a lot more to be talked about. I don't think we ought to rush into anything. We ought to do it, but let's not rush into it. Okay, thank you.
Miro, anything before we draw?
No, I think it was a good preempt to the conversation you will have on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.